Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, and today's video we're getting ready to get started on my next little project. Now this project is inspired by an image that I found online, and the reason I want to tackle this one is because I do think it's kind of a cool looking piece, not to mention it's also going to be a very challenging piece to make just because of the design, the shape. It's a cylindrical kind of image and stuff like that. Now this is actually an AI image that I found through a thing called Dreamtime. So I don't own the rights to the photo, but I want to show you guys the photo so you kind of get an idea of essentially what I'm looking to try building. So you can kind of see it's definitely going to be a very interesting thing to try to make. So I'm essentially going to go for it, see if I can make this happen. So let's get to it. All right, so I'm working on trying to decide how big I actually want this thing to be. I figured a 2 foot by 2 foot footprint should be more than big enough for stability purposes and stuff like that. And I figured I'd leave about 2 inches on either end just for any extra trims or anything like that, which essentially gave me about a 20-inch, center section right here. So what I decided to do, because obviously I can't make this thing just cylindrical and put all those details on there, I'm going to have to make individual pieces that are going to have to be mitered, glued together to essentially generate this overall shape in order to have all the details and stuff like that I want to try to put into it. So essentially how I come up with this right here, just to give you a quick explanation, is I essentially split everything in half. So my main square was 20 inches, so I measured from 20, that gave me my 10 here, struck those two lines, then I did a corner to corner line right there that gave me my center point, my dead center point. Then I took a cedar shim, screwed right there, put a pencil in here, drew a circle around, which you can kind of see the circle of it right there still. When that circle met that point right there, that pretty much told me where that point was going to be. And then pretty much I just divided in half from this point, these two original points, and that's what gave me this one right here. And then I struck those extra 4 lines, giving me my overall. So this pretty much tells me not only how big my thing needs to be, it also tells me how big my face pieces need to be, how wide my material has to be, and how wide the material is going to have to be when I do the miter based on how thick my material is when I get everything glued together. So that's pretty much just a quick explanation on what I got right here. So let's go ahead and start making some pieces and see how this thing turns out. Right here, I'm just drawing myself some reference lines so I know exactly how big I want each portion of this template to be. Then I'm going to come back with one of those like drafting kind of tools where it has like the circles and ovals and stuff like that so I can make all my different little areas. Next, I'm going to screw that to the 1/2 inch plywood that I'm going to be making the pattern out of, leaving an 1.5 inch gap right here for the 2x at the bottom. I'm going to use a skill saw to take off the bulk of the material and then come back with a jigsaw to go around all the little shapes. You definitely want to take your time when you do this part because you want to make sure that both halves are identical, so this way the piece that you make is symmetrical. Now I'm just going to come back with a sander so I can refine all the pieces and make sure everything is as square as possible. Next, I'm going to anchor that 2x to the table, and this is what that pattern is going to be screwed to. That's why I left that 1.5 inches at the bottom. So I cut a few strips real quick so I can glue them together in the jig real fast. I'm going to let that dry, and I want to do a quick test run with the hot wire just to make sure that it's going to glide across this wood pretty good. I did do some sanding on it just to make sure before I start getting too carried away with ripping material. So once this is dry, we'll give it a test run. Okay, so it's dry enough for me to do what I need to do. So let's go ahead and give it a shot and see if this works like the last one did. Just as an FYI, using OSB plywood was really not a good idea for this particular portion. The hot wire kept snagging the little fibers, causing it to get stuck. Using regular plywood would be definitely more recommended for this. Here we go. All right. There we go. There's the first profile. The only thing next would be to essentially create my bevels that I need to create. And then hopefully when they're all together, I will have my shape. All right, so next step is to do this 15 more times. All right, so I got all 16 of those things made. That definitely took much longer than I was anticipating to kind of give you an idea of how long it took just to make these, with an average of about 20 to 30 minutes between each one of them, with dry time with the expansion foam, plus cutting it and resetting it again for the next one. You're looking at over 8 hours worth of time right here, and I haven't even cut the bevel yet. I've been kind of racking my brain to try to figure out how am I going to do the bevel on those things, try to keep them as consistent as possible so everything lines back up. And this is essentially what I come up with, another kind of hot wire design essentially. So you see what I did here, I made myself essentially like a channel so I can set it inside here, keeps it nice and straight and even. You see I just put myself a wire right here, and what I did is I referred back to my original template here. I know what the measurement from here to here needs to be, but from here to here I measured 6 inches, which is the biggest point of the the piece and then measure what I had right there. So I made sure that that's pretty much what I had here and then what I have up here. Made myself just a quick mock-up piece. So I give it a quick test run, see how it's going to work. So let's see if this idea works. If it does, it'll take a quarter of the amount of time to do this portion than it did the other part. So give it a shot. Okay, so the other thing I did here is on one of them right here, I wrapped the wire around the center portion of it and then put it through the loop. So I could kind of turn it, kind of like the tension on like a guitar. So once I heat it up, if it gets a little bit slack, I can turn it a little bit and try to get that tension that I need. So hopefully when I push this through, it doesn't cause too much deflection in the wire. So go ahead and turn it on and see what happens. Make sure it's nice and tight. So you can see right there, I don't know if you can see in the camera, see how much it actually, all right, so let's try this. Trying not to burn my finger here. I figure I'll go one way first, and then I'll bring it back, for the ending. So I'll just kind of come back like this. There we go. But you can see that wire is really bending a lot. So I have a feeling that's really going to give me a hassle when doing this. So this might not work because it's also heating up really hot. Like bright red at the moment. So I'm never going to keep the full tension on there. So I might have to just use it to get a rough shape and then refine it with like a rasp or something. So see what else I can come up with. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and I guess kind of sacrifice one of them to see if this works. Just use my normal one. I put a couple cuts in the wood so it'll sit like that. Now I'm sure when that heats up, it's gonna probably burn the wood a little bit, but let's see what happens. Give this a shot. All right, well this seems to be working. The first piece turned out good, so let's go ahead and start with the second piece. All right, so I'm not sure if I was pushing it too fast or if the string just decided to break because it's been used a lot, but let me get another piece on there and start again. All right, so they're all cut out, they're all mitered, ready to go. So the next step is before I do any kind of expansion foam, I want to do a dry fit. So essentially I'm going to just take some masking tape and put it on the edge there and then up there and just tape it all together and create the shape just to see how everything fits and looks. If everything checks out like I want it to, then I'll start expansion foaming it and start making this thing a nice solid looking tower. Okay, so I got the thing back together. Actually went together pretty decent, but I definitely got to do a little bit more reinforcement in this area right here where it's extra thin. So what I'm going to do right there to try to get this thing to be as solid as possible, I got my base started right here with this piece of wood right here. I'm going to kind of explain what's going on here. Now on the bottom of this, you can see where I left like this lip right here. Now I did that so I could put these boards on here, and it's actually going to shove down inside of it. So this curved part is actually going to be on top of this, and this is going to stick out a little bit extra, just kind of give it like that extra little transition from one to the next. I'm going to caulk or use expansion foam right here to lock it in place. And then what the bar or a piece of wood right there is going to be for is I cut these right here. These are going to go down inside here in the tower. I'm going to put 3 of them in here. One probably right about here, one at the most critical spot, and one towards the very top. And what I'll do is after I shove them inside there, I'm just going to pour some expansion foam on top of it, so I can essentially fill around it, in those 3 locations, essentially giving you 4 points, here, there, and there, of areas where this thing is going to be solid and not move or flex or anything like that. So that's what I'm getting started on next. Well, that didn't go as planned. I put the masking tape around. I thought I put it in all the key areas where I needed it, and clearly I did not. You see, as the expansion foam did its thing, it bulged it out pretty bad in a few areas, ruined the entire shape. But I'm going to try to see if I can salvage it. I got a couple ideas to see if I can make it still work. If not, I'm still going to post this video just to kind of show you guys that not everything works. Sometimes you get really far into a project, everything's actually going pretty good, you're feeling good about it. All it takes is one little small mishap or one misjudgment on something to ruin an entire piece. So let me see if I can salvage it first. If not, I guess this one's over with. All right, so this was my game plan to try to see if I can salvage this prop right here. Right, is I cut out the entire center section that was all messed up, and just ripped myself these little strips right here and glued them in place. I left them extra big so this way I can refine it with my knife. And once I cover this thing with that concrete mix and all that stuff that I do, everything should blend in pretty good if it does work. Now, essentially, I kind of screwed up on this prop right from the very beginning. Essentially, what I should have done is I should have made myself some kind of structural core, kind of like I did on the other one where I built like that wooden box that everything was attached to. So I should have got myself either a PVC pipe or maybe one of those cardboard tubes a lot of times you see people use when they're building a deck. They put it on the ground, they fill it full of concrete and stuff like that. So I could have took all the strips and all the strips would have been glued to that. And then the only expansion foam you saw on the outside was just pretty much just sealing off the edges. So when I sanded, I had a nice transition from one piece to the other piece. So that's essentially where I screwed up right from the very beginning. But let's see if I can salvage this prop and still make it look good. If I do, great. If not, this was definitely a fail. So let's see what happens. So at this time, things are just not working out. Those pieces I put on there, they are holding, but you can definitely tell it doesn't have any real structure to it no more. And I know if I try to do anything more with it, like say put the concrete mix and stuff like that on there, without making it stronger, it's just not going to hold up. It's going to break, it's going to crack and stuff like that. Have you ever got to a point in a project where you just feel the best thing you do is kind of walk away, regroup, come up with a different strategy to see what you can do to either salvage that prop or start from scratch, depending on the circumstances? That's kind of where I'm at with this particular one at the moment. So I think I'm just going to put it off to the side. I still plan to complete it. I still plan to come back to it, but I'm just going to do it at a later date. I'm going to work out some other stuff and then kind of come back to it when I kind of have a good idea of what direction I want to go to try to salvage this particular prop. So for the time being, I hope you all enjoyed what you saw, and thanks for watching.